This is the Electric Bike Action Podcast, devoted to all things on two wheels, and sometimes three, with an electric motor. Electric Bike Action magazine is a print and digital magazine that reviews bikes and shares the latest news about e-bikes. I'm Tony Donaldson, the editor of the magazine and the host of this podcast. Be sure to give us a thumbs up and, if you like, a review to help us reach more people. You can also check out our website, electricbikeaction.com, and check out our Facebook page and Instagram account. My guest today is Richard Thorpe from GoCycle. He has an incredible background, starting as a cyclist from a young age, then working for MacLaren as an engineer. The combination of those two things, plus him seeing the possibilities for electric bikes almost 2 decades ago, prompted him to leave MacLaren and start making e-bikes. I've ridden several different models of GoCycle bikes, and you can immediately tell that Richard is an accomplished engineer. The ride quality, the fit and finish, even the way the bikes quickly disassemble for storage speak to this. Without further ado, let's get into the interview. Good morning, Richard, or should I say good evening for where you are. You're at 5 o'clock in the evening?
A little past 4 o'clock here in London.
Oh, okay. 4 o'clock. Amazing technology that we can do this halfway around the world.
Yeah, and still free, kind of. Although it seems like every Skype call I set up, there's usually some complaints about this darn free service.
Yeah, well, what do you want for free?
Exactly.
So tell me a little about your background. I mean, you were an engineer for MacLaren, and then how did that bring you into e-bikes?
Yes, I left MacLaren Cars actually some time ago in 2002 to start the company. And I'd been involved in a lot of composite engineering, working with carbon fiber and manufacturing and helping to design carbon fiber parts for racing cars. And it really taught me a lot about how to work with lightweight composites, how to work well with finite element analysis of lightweight components. And actually, I was into bikes a long time before I worked in the motorsport business. I was inspired in 1980 with the DuPont Prize for the Vector human-powered tricycle, who set the world speed record for a human-powered vehicle at 55 miles per hour. And I think I was in 7th grade at the time, and I saw that picture on Popular Science magazine, and it inspired me to get involved with the development of bicycles, recumbents, and that later led me on to getting involved when I was living in London into developing urban bikes and bikes that are easy to live with, bikes that have folding. And around that time, I could see that electric bikes were coming on stream from China. They'd come into Europe. I call them e-bike 1.0. There were some early models in the US. Even Lee Iacocca was probably a bit too early trying to launch an e-bike selling through car dealerships at the time. And I could see all the benefits of what an e-bike could offer with that motor, especially to an urban setting, an urban environment. And I felt, I had some unique experience in that I could combine my experience working with lightweight composite materials from the motor racing business, applying all the technology that I knew how and had learned to the electric motor, and create something that was much lighter, much more attractive for the Western consumer than the e-bike 1.0s coming out of China.
That's absolutely amazing. Funny story about that. I was Lee Iacocca's photographer for e-bike. So I worked with him back then, and I got to ride those early lead-acid powered bikes, and they were terrible. But he like you, amazing. Saw that as the future.
Yes, I mean, I remember pitching the first models of the GoCycle to the automotive industry. I was saying, hey, Lee Iacocca was doing something there, and I very much thought that this was something that automotive dealers would really take a shining to. The GoCycle was portable also. It was lightweight. It could fit in cars. And it was really a non-starter. I mean, I say right now I was 10 years too early in this industry. That makes me a pioneer, and we've got a great reputation that we've built up over those 10 years. But even back then, I guess there's a lot of people in the e-bike space that have been too early. So it's only, I think, in the last 2-3 years that you're really starting to see a bit more of a mainstream consumer actually understand or have heard about an e-bike.
Oh, it's so true. And I mean, the technology has changed so much in the past, say, 5 years. It's just incredible.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I kind of have an e-bike 1.0, 2.0, and I think we're on e-bike 3.0 right now. I think the next 5 years we're going to see e-bike 4.0 coming around the bend. But for sure, Bosch and the other mid-drive makers, they really shifted us from 2.0 into 3.0 in my view of the market, and really actually in some ways commoditized the e-bike so that it could fit very, very easily into the traditional bicycle supply chain, where you have drivetrain makers, and now you have motor drive makers, you've got frame builders, you've got component builders.
I agree. Going with the design of the GoCycle, because I've been riding 20-inch bikes. I was a BMX guy, still am, and so I know what a good 20-inch bike should ride like, and yours is outstanding. I mean, it is so stable, and it's still a lively ride. It's a really fun bike to ride, and I think the first one that I rode was the G3.
Yep.
And I was really surprised by that. And let's go back to the thought process coming up with that, because the frame designs are all fairly similar, save for the most recent folding one. They all fold.
Yes.
But talk me through, I mean, because you must have started with sort of a blank sheet of paper to get to this. But the way the wheels come off and the way that your clean drive protects the chain and everything. Talk about that a little bit.
Sure. I mean, when I was developing what would end up being GoCycle, I was, this is right around the time where I became aware of the electric bikes, and I was developing, a portable product, a foldable bike that would have superior ride quality with no compromise to the ride quality and no compromise to the rider fit. So those were two key things on the design brief that were not going to change, and that meant you got a certain wheelbase, and you've also got geometry, those 5 points that you can't really mess around with, which are the contact points of the wheels to the ground, and the saddle, the handlebars, and the pedals. And so working within that approach of not going to compromise on that, I was developing a product that would have the portability to be able to take it inside. You don't have to worry about theft and all those good things. And I was actually working for the Bentley on the Bentley Le Mans car project at the time, and I was commuting. That was in Norfolk, which is sort of to the northeast of London, and it's kind of farmland. The factory's out in farmland, and there was a lot of people or farmers that would take their tractors onto the road, and they would dump all this kind of muck from the fields that they just plowed. And I was actually commuting on an Alex Moulton AM7, and I got to this point where this thing was collecting so much dirt in the spokes, in the chains, in the frame, in the cabling, that I had this moment where I was just done with it. And I was like, there was another thing I wasn't going to compromise on. I said I was going to make sure that everything was enclosed nicely inside the product. So even doing away with wire spokes so that they're easy to wipe down and clean. The the clean drive, making sure the chain is inside that cover, and that was a key moment, which started the GoCycle down to the form factor that it's taken. You quickly realize, whether it's with my background or just whether I believe strongly as I do that bicycles fundamentally need to be of a certain weight. You're always picking them up. You're always handling them. They need to be lightweight to be enjoyable to own and ride. And so you quickly realize that you can't really put, a cover on top of something. Everything has to actually do the job of structurally making the product nice and stiff to ride and strong enough, and also enclosed stuff. So, very quickly, GoCycle became this monocoque type of automotive-inspired design, where it was very much like a racing car, where the chassis, is the actual bodywork. And the clean drive, for example, that's a very, very lightweight structure, injection molded in magnesium, and it's the visual cover that protects the chain, but it's also the structural rear swing arm.
Ah, right. All right, and then you've got suspension built into all of the models, don't you? I mean, that rear link.
Yeah, the rear is suspended. You've got about an inch of travel there, and I chose to use. I mean, back to the 20-inch wheel discussion. All the world speed records have been set on 20-inch wheels. That comes back from my understanding and interest in human-powered vehicles. And so when it comes to performance, a compact wheel offers you, very little, if any, reduction in rolling resistance with the modern tires that you have these days. But it gives you that overall length of the product being shorter, but yet having a long wheelbase. And so those tires also that we use, and the tire volume, which is pretty important. We've got a wider tire than normal, which actually people are only now realizing that is actually the fastest, lowest rolling resistance tire. I mean, when I was starting GoCycle, everything had to be 20 millimeters or 18 millimeters, and now there's a huge vast amount of data out there that says a wider tire will actually roll better. But also what that gives you is it gives you much more flexibility over the tire volume of the air in the tire, and how you can complement and use that as your suspension. So where one of the reasons why a GoCycle rides well is, you can crank up the rear pressure on the rear tire that has suspension. So you've still got comfort, but on our front end, where we don't have suspension, you run the tire at lower pressure, and you have great rolling resistance and fantastic comfort.
It does make a difference, definitely, with varying tire pressure. And you've selected such great tires for the bike. And I'm sure that goes back to your background.
Yeah, I mean, the original brief of the GoCycle was very much about lightweight and performance. And those tires, the GoCycle performance tires, are made for us by Vredestein, which they use their top of the line weave of their racing tires. And there's actually a group in Holland which did a bunch of tests on 20-inch tires, and the GoCycle performance tires, they are in a class of their own in terms of rolling resistance. They're fantastic. They don't have the all-weather protection that a heavier duty tire has, and so we do sell an all-weather version of our tire, but they are amazing.
Absolutely. I mean, great grip on just about any surface that I've taken them on. Let's shift gears again. No pun intended. And tell me about the e-bike miles program. I mean, it sounds like such a cool idea.
I've been commuting to work here at the GoCycle office here for more than a decade, riding my GoCycle back and forth. and recently, over the last 2 to 3 years, there's been just a huge increase in people's awareness of global warming and traffic congestion and all this kind of stuff that we need to tackle. And I got to the point about 2 years ago where on my commute, I could see that at times I was the only one on the road on a bicycle.
Right.
And I'm looking at all these. It's an urban road that I commute in on, and whether it's the weather at the time or what, you feel like, geez, am I the only person out here? Why aren't there more people, riding bicycles or riding e-bikes? And I had this moment where I thought, I founded an e-bike company. What am I doing that or could be doing to accelerate the adoption in, even if it's a very small way? And so you go down this road of thinking, oh, you're going to talk to your local politician and you're going to lobby government, and you think, yeah, that's going to take forever. And we do that on the side, but it's not something that you feel like you can get something done with quickly. And you compare, I own a car, I use a car, I drive a car. On cold days or certain days when you get in a car, you think, wow, this is such a nice environment to be on. You can have the radio on, the heater on, you even got heated seats in most cars. And it's quite a different environment than being out on a bicycle. There's also, the danger of things, of cycling, which as a company that has people cycle in regularly, we've all been affected by that here. And so I got to the point and I said, we've got to actually pay people to ride these things if we want to make a difference. And I did a lot of research into other countries, and I noticed that France had trialed a scheme whereby if people worked for certain companies, they could claim a tax break if they were cycling to work. And in Holland, there was the government had introduced a policy also around 20 pence per mile. And there's a good study I found in Denmark also that talked about the net benefit of, or the cost to society of, someone driving a car has an impact, I think, on that, in that study, of about 60 cents per mile, and someone riding a bicycle had a net benefit to society from health benefits and all the rest. So I've kind of bought into that notion that if someone's on a bicycle or an e-bike versus a car, that they're saving money for society. And so I said, this is what we need to do as a small company, as a founder of an electric bike company. I can do something tomorrow about this. And we went through and we came up with a document about, what we would do with our staff. And we started paying people 40p, or that's GBP per mile, on the basis that it's also on parity with what people can claim back for car mileage. You pretty much 40p a mile for a car and 40p a mile for bicycle. And it seemed the right kind of way to position it, that the vehicles or the modes of transport in an urban setting should be equal. And we just started doing it, and it's been a program that we've just said, hey, any small company out there can do this tomorrow. Our staff like it. I think we've saved 10,000 miles already since we introduced it in terms of car miles, less car miles traveled.
Wow.
It's kind of like turned out to be this easy thing to do. It feels right. And yeah, we hope other people, other companies, just start doing that themselves also. In the background, I think longer term, and we work with the UK Bicycle Association to lobby the government. And long term, we hope that the government would decide to give companies a tax break or a tax credit if for all the funds that we've paid out to our staff to effectively, invest in the health and well-being of society as a whole. So it was kind of one of those moments where it was, okay, instead of pointing the finger, we just need to do something ourselves.
No, that is absolutely brilliant. And as far as getting more people on bikes, the more people you get on bikes, the better it helps the bicycle industry, first of all. But second of all, the more people you get on bikes, the safer the bikes are. I mean, as far as in traffic.
Yeah, yeah. And that was the feeling when you're sometimes out on your own. You think, geez, I'd like some company out here because, yeah, cars would take a little more care with a group of riders than the lone cyclist out there.
Absolutely agree. Absolutely agree. And then, what do you see in the future for GoCycle and for the industry?
Do you mean from a product pipeline perspective for GoCycle, or just generally business wise or market wise?
I'm thinking in terms of what bikes are coming in the future, or what where do you go from here, kind of thing, and then do you have any prediction for the e-bike industry in general?
Yeah, I think I don't think we've even touched the surface of what the size of the e-bike e-bike market is going to be. It's such a transformative product, and it's going to be. I've been predicting this for 10 years, like probably a lot of other people, that the e-bike format is going to become the dominant form of transport within an urban environment. Electric cars, they solve one part of the problem, which is pollution, but they don't charge congestion, and they're a sedentary form of transport. There's no active travel involved there. So I think the industry as a whole is a very positive outlook. Within our space and the urban recreational premium segment of the urban and recreational e-bike market, we see a big growth opportunity in the folding segment, where we are being recognized as a leader. I think the materials that are available to people, the amount of interest there is in the scooter business and all of that is bringing new thoughts to the portable aspect of e-bikes in the urban environment. And I think that category, right now, there's probably 3 or 4 main players, including us, that are on the premium side of things. I think that category is going to grow. I think the e-scooter market is a really interesting one, because I think it's an amazing natural feeder for new customers that are going to want to upgrade to e-bikes after they've gone through their initial phase of fun and exhilaration of commuting on an e-scooter, and then realize that it's quite a stressful commute to do that daily.
Right.
So I think there's a whole pool of people out there that are not into bicycles at all. They've probably never ridden a bicycle, but they're going to understand electric 2 wheels on an e-scooter, and they're going to be a natural upgrade opportunity. So I think that's quite interesting. And where we fit in with them is, we come at it with this portable aspect. I believe from the beginning that if you're in an urban environment, that an e-bike that doesn't fold, or you can't take inside easily or onto an underground train or an overground train, is a compromise. And that I think for us is very much part of our future. We have a strong philosophy of lightweighting, so we're working hard to keep the weight of our product on a downward trend. I think that's quite that's something that's going to definitely in the marketplace. You're already seeing a lot lighter product as we move from e-bike 3.0 to 4.0. There's a lot lighter product out there, and evolution. The bicycle industry is amazing at evolving engineering the components lighter and better each year. So that's going to definitely happen. I don't know about the price points at the moment. They all seem to be quite high and staying high. I don't know what bike marketplaces are going to do to that, because with the mid-drive, center drive format, there's a lot of commoditization of that e-bike, and the bike marketplaces where a customer can find the lowest price over the complete United States. That could have an effect on pricing. So I don't know about that. I think the market is also going to see a lot more integration of auxiliary apps, health information, GPS, all of that stuff. Even Bosch, whether this is good or bad, I don't know. Bosch has debuted a couple of years ago anti-lock brakes. The mindset is different once you've got a power supply on board the product. You feel like you can put more stuff on it. Whether that increases the weight and makes the product less useful or not, I don't know yet. But it's certainly, you're going to see a lot more things being included in the products.
I absolutely agree. Some of that integration is pretty amazing. And as far as the price, I'm just working on an article for an upcoming issue where I'm sort of looking at what the cost of ownership is, and how much it might save you over, say, using your car all the time. And I did one story where I raced a friend from Santa Monica to downtown Los Angeles, and it was in rush hour traffic, and I had a Class 3, a 28 mile an hour, 45 kilometer an hour bike, and he beat me downtown in the car, but by the time he found parking, and this is a key point, by the time he found parking, I was at the building where we were meeting. And and it was, I forget how far the distance was. It worked out to being a gallon of gas, which was $3 at the time, and my cost to recharge, and that's round trip. My cost to recharge the battery was 19 cents, and that's at peak Los Angeles rates. And so, but you have to also compare in the cost of not just the fuel, if you will, but the ownership, the maintenance, all of that stuff.
Yeah.
And, you're, even if you have a car and you're not completely replacing the car, just by riding on nicer days, it is going to save a lot of wear and tear on your car and a lot of maintenance costs that are far more expensive than a bicycle. And like you say, the health benefits are huge.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you just, I'm sure you just use these things a lot more than you thought you would once you own one. You think, right, I can just go that extra 5 miles. I don't need to take the car because this thing is so convenient.
Absolutely. And you've got yours set up to, I was reading something about you have yours set up to basically fold or take down to go on to a train in like 10 seconds.
Yeah, our new fast folding, we have a stowable range, which is more suited to people that are wanting to, put it in an RV or store it at home occasionally, or put it in the back of their car occasionally. And then we have a fast folding range, which is, under 10 seconds. It's 2 latches and the thing rolls on its wheels. So, the amount of convenience that offers you to operate with other modes of transport and also feel like, I can just, quickly put that in the back of the car or in your office or at home. That's something that, has always been part of what GoCycle is all about. That freedom and flexibility to use the product more than you could, a traditional non-folding e-bike.
Well, it's certainly a good product, and I really enjoy riding them. and actually living with them for the time that I get to. Okay, I think that covers everything. Anything else you wanted to add?
Just thank you very much for inviting me onto your program. I've enjoyed talking about all things e-bike and GoCycle.
Fantastic. Well, thanks for taking the time to do the interview, and I really appreciate it. And it's always good talking to you, Richard.
Thanks a lot, Tony.
All right. Have a great day.
Okay, cheers.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Electric Bike Action Podcast. For the latest reviews and information, visit electricbikeaction.com, subscribe to our podcast on iTunes or Stitcher or Google or wherever you get your podcasts, and give us a rating and review to help spread the word about e-bikes. You can also email me at tonyd@hightorque.com. That's TONYD at hi-torque.com. I'm happy to answer questions and would love to hear your experiences and adventures on e-bikes. This podcast is powered by Callcast.